Last Friday, the Labor Department released their final jobs report from 2014. New hires beat out national projections, but once again, wages took a hit. The economy and job growth is one of the biggest topics of discussion in the new Congress, and we're going to hear a lot about it in the coming days. Helping us to get ready for the new year, we're welcoming a Stanford professor and author to give us her hiring predictions for this year, Dr. Tracy Wilen. You've seen her work on Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal, and in the USA Today. Dr. Tracy, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. Doctor, first of all, these job reports, they come out every month, but how we read them really changes based on which publication you pick up in the newsstand. In your mind, what is the biggest number that you look for in these job reports?
I actually look at the number of 5 million. How many jobs are not filled today? And I think that's a reality that we all have to face, is that we may have people who are not qualified for jobs. Number two is on the unemployment. I think you have to look at the underemployed as well. These are people who are working part-time or who are working in jobs that they're overskilled for. And number three is look locally. You may be living in an area that is booming and unaware that there's another neighborhood down the block where you have over 10% unemployment. So it's very real, but it is very localized.
Now, we heard a lot last year about the raising of the wage floor, increasing the minimum wage, and several states voted to raise the minimum wage starting this January. How do you think that new law will impact small businesses in those states?
I'm not a fan of using wage increases to try to balance. I look at companies such as Walmart. They're doing an incredible service for the community. They keep the product costs down. They help us in many ways, and yet they have all these pressures of raising wages. Jobs are jobs. If you're more skilled, then you need to look for jobs with higher wages. I just don't like the idea of compensating a lower skilled job by raising the wages. I don't think it does us any good.
Now, many Americans still believe that a low-paying job is better than no job at all, and you've got your ear to the ground in the job market. Where are the biggest number of entry-level jobs opening up right now?
There's a couple of areas. I'd actually recommend that people start to look at healthcare, because people are living longer. So we're going to need a lot more services to help our baby boomers, whether they're what I call active and want to use wearable technologies or have services to help them stay active, or the inactive, which are the adult community that doesn't want to go to a home, but they would rather stay home and have services come in. I like healthcare because it's easy entry. You can start off with a high school degree or a certification. You have a lot of avenues that you can pursue, whether it's information technology, marketing, or clinical, working with patients. So I'd recommend healthcare. The second one I'd recommend is security. Big problem. You hear it in the news every day. Hacking, bodily protection, data breaches, and terrorism. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, sadly, but I think that that's an opportunity if people want to look for jobs.
Now, what about the food industry? Can someone coming out of college feel good about their chances to build a career in the food industry?
America's got to eat. So I think food is hot, because when I grew up, it was meat and potatoes and Burger King and McDonald's, and that was it. Now you can have, someone wrote 9 gazillion types of cupcakes. So we have organic food, we have vegetarian food, we have gluten-free food. We can say big words like quinoa, we eat kale, we eat Greek yogurt. I mean, people are creating services and products in the food industry, and they keep reinventing it. And I think the TV, is just creating momentum with all these hot food shows and chefs. So I think people can look at this, whether it's in the marketing side, the product side, the delivery side, or just entrepreneurial side. I think food is hot.
Now, you were recently in Las Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show, and you saw it all firsthand right there. Technology is really taking off. We were just talking about the food industry, and coincidentally, with the raising of the minimum wage, there's a lot of businesses who are saying, including McDonald's, are saying, well, we can have touchscreen machines at the register. We don't have to have these entry-level positions anymore. Many people think that the rise of the machines could be here sooner than we think. Drones, droids, robots to touch screens I mentioned. What does this mean for the workplace?
And your point is well taken. Exactly. And companies are smart. They're going to find the way to be the most efficient. If it's a person, great. If it's a machine or software and I can get the job done faster, I will. I've been in hotels in New York where they have robotic bellboys. I live in an area out in Silicon Valley where there are autonomous cars running up and down the streets, right? Why do I need drivers or pilots or truck drivers in the future? So low skilled, right? We used to be so concerned about outsourcing. Now you really need to be concerned about software. Software is intelligent and keeps learning and will replace many of the lower skilled areas. So your point is very well taken.
Now, with so many people out of work for so long, we've started to see a rise in the number of freelancers who are floating around looking for short-term work. Where do you see the freelancer trend going in the future? Do you think they're going to land someplace long-term?
So you have to remember that not every freelancer wants to work full-time. Many people, I agree, were transitioned out of work. And the projection is by 2020, 40% of the workforce will be freelancing or working part-time. However, we have a younger generation, the millennials, who really are embracing freelancing because it's more interesting. You can control your schedule, you can control your projects. You can be your own boss. And you can create what we call a portfolio career, and you can make a living at that. So I would look at freelancing as, yes, there's going to be people who are underemployed and want to be full-time, and they will continue to look, and freelancing is a way to get in. And then you're going to have a population that is going to make a great living off of part-time projects and gigs.
Now, in your trends forecast here for the workforce, you say, and your first point is that millennials are moving up. Explain.
So the millennials, this is the year. I say 2015, if you're a millennial and you're waiting for leadership opportunities, this could be your year because the baby boomers are retiring and reaching age 65 at a rate of 10,000 per day. Generation X, which is the 30s, 40s, 50s generation that is the pipeline to replace them, is a very small generation. The millennials are there. They're the next in line. If you are interested and willing to move into leadership roles, this generation is technically savvy and smart. And this would be the year for them to raise their hand and look for opportunities.
Now, I'm going to jump down to your third point because we already covered your second point in your trends forecast for the workforce. And we touched on drones and technology, but the point you make is that you say your next manager may be a software bot. How does that play out in reality?
Well, in reality, just look at the jobs today that are already being automated by software, whether it's retail, customer service, accounting, right? All of these areas have software impact. So if your job could be taught, right, to a software program, right, and then relearned, you may be at risk. That's the point, is look at your jobs, look at your careers and say, could pieces of this be replaced by some sort of intelligent technology? Case in point is manufacturing. We have robotics and 3D printing. That has shifted and really created jobs and eliminated jobs in an industry where people thought, oh, it's just all about outsourcing, but it isn't. It's all about technology, software and hardware.
So if someone's in one of those positions, what do you think would be some key points for them to look out for in their workplace?
Get on top of technology while you're working. Right? So if you're in a job and you see the opportunity to join technology teams, cross-functional teams, special technology projects, I'm telling you, companies have them all the time. They look for people to help them roll out ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, or develop new websites, or help them with the databases. Find an area and start to contribute so that you can learn the skills and do it while you're working. It's so much harder if you're not working. So I would recommend if you're working, try to do it there.
Now, we've been talking about the private sector. We should probably start talking about government jobs. In 2008, President Obama reached to the younger generation, and we saw a big wave of millennials taking jobs in government. It was the cool thing to do at the time. Now, that feeling is a bit faded, and more millennials are leaving government jobs for the private sector. Is that considered a volatile career path?
You know, I never heard government described as volatile. I've heard it described as slow, steady, and stagnant. So my sense is that they may be exiting because millennials like to get things done. They like to feel like they're heard. They feel like they can change things. So my guess is that they're more concerned about getting something done and accomplished, and the bureaucracy may just be too frustrating for them.
Now, point 5, you bring up the sharing economy. What exactly is that?
Why buy when you can share? If you have a house, share your rooms through Airbnb. If you have a car, oh my goodness, you can share it with Uber and Lyft. In fact, these services are becoming mainstream, so mainstream that families are using it as the family chauffeur, right? Not only can you share something, but you can make money by sharing something that you have. This creates so many new types of opportunities. In fact, I shared a Christmas tree this year. I actually rented a Christmas tree, and then it came to my home, and then it went back to the forest so that I could share it again next year. So it's just, a societal trend that is just creating entrepreneurial opportunities, but also logistic opportunities. You need to figure out how to get these products and services shared. You need people like lawyers to figure out what are the new rules around sharing. You need asset managers to help companies figure out the sharing, what's the terms. So there's a lot of opportunities right there, and it's a societal trend. It's not really a technology trend, it's a societal trend.
Well, you bring up Uber, and that's interesting because they've been in the news a lot lately, and we've seen different lobbying groups say, we don't want Uber in our town, or we don't want it in our country for that matter. And then you see, of course, the taxi cab companies saying, get them out of here. How do you think that whole scenario is going to play out? Because it is a sharing element. It's really a crowdsourced organic element versus more of a structuralized industry.
It's fantastic. It's filling a need. If you lived in Chicago, you lived in New York, you live in San Francisco, you can't get a taxi. And so this is a service that just basically replaces that need. Plus, a lot of people can't afford cars. So if you can make sharing a ride cheap enough that I don't have to buy a car, pay for insurance and parking, or pay exorbitant taxi fees, to me it's a no-brainer. So I'm very positive about some of these newer services. The other thing too is, have you ever tried, if you've had a bad taxi ride, to get recourse? It's impossible. If you have one bad ride on an Uber or Lyft, they take action immediately and fix the problem. And that's, to me, the difference moving ahead of when you see entrepreneurs grasping some of these long-term legacy types of industries and figuring out in a new way.
Well, certainly 2015 is going to be exciting. I've been in New York. I know what happens when all the cab drivers disappear, how difficult it can be to get a taxi. But certainly great to have you on, and we look forward to having you back on.
Thank you very much, and again, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. That was author Dr. Tracy Wilen from Standard. You can find out more about her at tracywilen.com. Up next, we've got today's special reports, and Amanda Gabriel will have your daily digital report. Stand by. You're watching WHDT.